The Next Chapter with Prim Siripipat is a production of iHeartRadio. Hey everybody, it's Prim. Welcome to The Next Chapter presented by Baron Davis and Slick Studios. This week's guest is former NFL wide receiver and return specialist and entrepreneur, Walter Powell Jr. Walter was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, and attended Murray State on a football scholarship where he'd break all sorts of records and became the program's all-time leading receiver with 2,650 receiving yards, 29 touchdowns, and 10 100-plus yard games. And he has since been inducted into the Racers Hall of Fame. Now, after college, he was drafted in the 6th round of the 2014 NFL Draft by the Arizona Cardinals. And during his 4-year NFL career, he played for 5 different teams, including the Cardinals, Jets, Bills, Raiders, and Jaguars. So there was certainly a lot of bouncing around. I reached out to Walter after he wrote this amazing piece for the Players Tribune titled, "What's Your Purpose in Life?" It was a first-person account about his transition from football, in which he talked about a pivotal moment in 2017 that motivated him to finally walk away from the game of football and into his newfound purpose. How did he pull himself out of this dark place in 2017 after he had been cut by the Buffalo Bills and after he had been dumped by his girlfriend and after he had lost tens of thousands of dollars in this renovation project that went wrong? At what point did he realize football was no longer serving him and that becoming an entrepreneur was his path and purpose in life? And how did it feel seeing himself on the Forbes 30 under 30 list just a few years after retiring from football and realizing that his passion, an app that he had launched called Politiscope, was really making some waves? We explore all these questions during this interview, which we recorded in 2019. So here we are, meeting for the first time, recording and filming in an office in New York City, having a conversation about sports, life, and all the ups and downs that this journey brings. Walter.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming here. Thanks for the notification on Instagram. My Instagram story, you said you were on your way over here. I love how the mode of communication is multifaceted these days.
Definitely is. Instagram is an easy way to hit up somebody or respond. So yeah.
Well, I think that's how I hit you up on Twitter. I think it was, or maybe it was Instagram. I can't remember.
Instagram. Yeah, I suck on Twitter. I gotta get hip on Twitter a little bit.
I slid you a DM.
It go down in the DM. So yeah.
I got the response. No, you know what? When I saw your piece on the Players Tribune, it just hit me so hard. It was so good. It was so well written. The title was what is your purpose in life, right? How did that come about? Did they reach out to you, or had you already started writing something?
So I already had relationships with a few people in the Players Tribune. So I mean, they've heard my story before and just how compelling it is just talking about it. It was like, yeah, we got to get this piece in the Tribune. So just definitely work with a journalist to really help bring my story to life, how I talk about it anyway. So it was good to really get that exposure and really just because a lot of athletes feel the same way, and not even just athletes, just people in general, just go through those ups and downs. So it felt good that people really felt just what I put out.
It was very honest and transparent, and usually, I read a lot of those athlete first-person stories, and a lot of them they warm up to the pivotal moment, but you kind of went straight into it.
Yeah.
And you talked about that year in 2017 where you were going through a lot of things, and I'll let you kind of tell the story, but 2017 seems like it was probably the toughest year of your life, of your
definitely
career.
Was the toughest chapter of my life, for real, just because it was a time I wasn't on a team. Shoot, it was me and my girlfriend at the time was just going through some rocky situations. And then, just someone I trusted to handle my real estate back home in St. Louis basically stole from me. So it was just a lot, just really weighing down on me, and I just wasn't. It was just tough, but I just knew I couldn't give up, and it was just tough.
I've done a number of these interviews at this point, and the fact that you were able to articulate everything from a rational perspective tells me that when somebody can do that, they've healed and they've already moved on. When they can't, it usually means that they're kind of still stuck in the storm. So it sounds like you've really kind of recovered and moved on from that.
Oh yeah, and that's just more so just learning more about myself and understanding that at the end of the day we're all human. You know what I'm saying? And who knows what happened in that person's life for them to do this action on me or somebody else, you know what I'm saying? So you just got to see it from a different perspective and not from a selfish point of view to really understand how people operate.
Do you journal at all? I mean, do you write a lot?
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot. Like I write, I paint, to really just articulate my feelings and everything. I do a lot of drawing, a lot of painting. So play the guitar a little bit. Like I really just try
you're super artistic then.
Yeah, I'm super just creative. So it's I just try to express it in many ways as possible because I don't like holding it in. I just like so I just gotta let it out.
That's good because I think a lot of particularly athletes, but male athletes too, I think that we live still in a society where we are told to suppress everything and push everything down, and you're supposed to be a certain way. Where did you find the creative outlet to let all of that out? Where did that come from?
What you mean, like where does it come from?
Where do you get the idea to journal, or how did drawing or painting or any of that stuff come about? Because there might be athletes that can do that, but they've never thought of doing that because they weren't exposed to it.
For me, I've always, been pretty creative, knew how to draw since I was a kid, but just during the time I wasn't on the team, I was able to really do more painting and really just sit there and spend hours painting and just hours just journaling. I was just doing a lot, writing poems, just doing a lot, just to really keep my mind off, certain situations so that I wouldn't go down like a negative spiral. So it was just I definitely recommend those outlets to anybody, like just being able to be creative and express yourself in different ways. So it really just helped me to just grow into myself and did a lot of reading as well. So just with reading, it really just helped me figure out who I was as a person and just a higher version of myself. Because I feel like a lot of times people, have FOMO or they just don't want to, they're scared to be at home or be alone by themselves. So they overcompensate with, whether it's, going out all the time, drugs, alcohol, I mean, you name it, just so many things to really distract them when all the answers and all the healing lies within.
Yeah, I think it's more uncomfortable. 100% it is more uncomfortable to sit by yourself and sit still, because I think that's when you're sitting alone and you're sitting still, that's when their mind starts going a little bit crazy, and also the emotions start bubbling to the surface. And so I think we live in a society where everybody's got to be moving around and doing something. But I always try to encourage people, like, if you really want to learn about yourself, as you were saying, you got to just be present and just sit still for a moment. And writing for me, I try to journal every single morning. It's super helpful for me.
And meditating, I forgot.
I do meditate. Do you use an app?
I just
you just do it by yourself?
Yeah,
like no guided?
No, just how I started off, just because during that time I was going through a lot. Like I woke up one morning I felt defeated one morning. It was like 4 a.m, just because I knew I had to go through the motions of renovating my houses by myself with me and my uncle.
Yeah.
Like God told me, he just said, close your eyes and meditate. So I closed my eyes for the first time for 5 minutes and meditated. And then I started doing that for 5 minutes for the next 2 weeks. And I went up 5 more minutes. And then it got to a point every 2 weeks I went up 5, to the point where I got up to 30 minutes and was just meditating and now I just meditate every morning for like 15, 20 minutes.
That's amazing. So because for a lot of people, it's a gradual process, but for you, it seems like things happened really quickly all in 2017. You were going through a lot, and then all of a sudden you just kind of like woke up and had this change? Before we delve into that, because I think that's just the critical moment of that. I don't know if it's going to define your life, but I think it's a huge part of it. But I want to get to know you. So I know you were born and raised in Missouri. Shout out Show Me State, because I was
St. Louis.
And when we were going back and forth, I was like, I was born in Mexico, Missouri. You had kind of heard of it. We were talking about the population, how it's been like 12,000 for about 50 years.
Yeah.
It hasn't grown. So you were born and raised in Missouri. Okay. And what was your childhood like?
I mean, I feel like just pretty good childhood, single mother, father was, he was around, but he wasn't in St. Louis, he was in Arizona, but he was always, coming to at least 2 to 3 of my games each year. So it was a pretty good childhood, definitely oblivious to all the current stuff that's happening now in St. Louis. When you were younger, when you're just in a certain area, you're not exposed to a lot of things. So it was a decent community, but it was, in sports, did a lot of things my older brother did, because he played in the NFL, and he's my mentor, best friend, so he just really just wanted to be like him. So yeah, just had a good time.
And so what are your first memories of being exposed to sports? I guess through your brother.
Yeah.
And how much older is he?
He's 8.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's because my uncle he was my football coach and my brother's football coach, but that was my first time being exposed to football, just being around my older brother and my uncle.
How old were you? Your first memories?
Like 5, 6. Because I remember one time they thought somebody snatched me up while they was at practice, because I went to the park that was right there, and I was just chilling, playing with a few of the kids, and yeah, it was funny. But
they get mad at you?
Because I got bored, because I was like, man, I don't these dudes just run around hitting each other. I'm gonna go over here play with these kids, and I didn't tell nobody, so that was a big thing. But yeah, that's one of the earliest memories.
So you would go to your brother's practices and watch your uncle coach, and did you play any other sports?
Tried baseball. It was short-lived, just because I was good at the time, but I it was boring. And then when I had my first pop fly come my way, ran it down. That was the day I ended up, I forgot to wear my cup that day. And the ball just went and hit me dead in the balls. And I was like, yep, it's time to run some track. So I was like,
that's it for baseball.
Yeah, I'm good on baseball.
Too slow, too painful.
Yep. And I was like, forget it.
So you ran track and also did football, and it was primarily those two.
Yep.
And at what point?
Basketball, a little bit of basketball.
And a little bit of basketball. Yeah, because I feel like if you're fast, and you're athletic, but I feel like if you're fast, if you don't have good eye-hand coordination, at least you can play some defense.
Yeah, that's
right?
I used to foul a lot. I used to foul out a lot because I was fast, but I was just still in football. I was just too aggressive as a kid. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. I am by no means comparing myself to you, but I did play basketball, and the way you just described it, I had no idea what I was doing, but I was super fast because I did track as well. So I just thought I was just supposed to run into people and like just take the ball and just take off. And they're like, you can't do that. So at what point did you realize I actually might have a future in football?
I think when I scored my first touchdown as
And
a
how
kid.
old were you, like 6?
No, I didn't actually start playing ball until like 8 or 9.
Okay. But that's still pretty young.
Yeah, still pretty young. But when I scored that first touchdown, and I was just like, this is interesting. I think I can do this for a while. So that's when the savagery started to happen, started to come out of me. So.
And what was the rest of your career like? When did you really start to turn the corner and see yourself as a potential, not just an elite athlete, but somebody who could really do something at the professional level?
It was probably my sophomore year in college. Like I already started to, once I just started to understand the playbook, just going from high school to college, because our high school playbook was so easy. But then once I got to college and I got comfortable with the plays, then I was able to just play fast and just be me. And then, yeah, I had a pretty good sophomore year, but then my junior year, I went crazy. I just had like 1,200 yards, 16 touchdowns, All-American. She was up for the Walter Payton Award, which is like the equivalent of the Heisman Award of D1AA. So. Yeah. I was just going crazy, going nuts. But that's when I knew, because I could have came out of came out in my junior year to the NFL, but I just wanted to get a higher draft grade.
So you just decided to stay for that?
Oh, yeah, because I was like,
year,
if I could get 1,200 yards this year, next year, I'm going to go crazy.
You wanted more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I ended up breaking my foot 4 games before the season was up. So I was like I finished with like 890 yards, probably like 12 touchdowns. But it was I thought my career was over. I was crying. I was just all over the place. I'm like, damn, I had to go to like the military or something like that. But they was like, it was minor. But it was just crazy because I was playing on a broke foot. They said the whole season because I thought I had a sprained foot the whole season, but it just finally snapped on me. And luckily, they said it was a clean break and ended up putting a rod in it, healed up. Probably a few months later, just in time for me to participate in the combine. So
wow, so you made it just in time.
Yeah.
At that point, how much was sports a part of your future and also a part of who you were? Was it everything, or did you have other interests or other plans?
I mean, at that time, once I realized that I could take this the distance, I kind of just honed in and started to focus solely on football. Like I woke up every morning, I had a ritual just because I'm just big on rituals. I wake up and watch the same 5 highlight tapes of guys in the NFL because subconsciously it kind of got embedded in me. And then I started emulating that on the field. And it was just like, how did I do this type of stuff? And it's just constantly repetition and doing that in the morning and just really just everything, just doing more than the usual guy wouldn't. So just staying after practice, catching more balls, running more routes, like just really trying to, just because I was coming from a small school, I had to do more. So
right, at Murray State. Mm-hmm. When did that routine start? How old were you?
It started my junior year.
Okay.
Well, matter of fact, it started my sophomore year because I used to do it in the bathroom at all our away games, like in the hotel or whatnot in the morning, and then of course in the morning in my bathroom in the dorms. But yeah, it started my sophomore year.
And that's really cool. It's like I don't know if you knew what mental imagery was back then, but that's just like a different form of it.
Oh wow, yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's a lot of athletes that do it, but it's visualization and mental imagery, and there's just a ton of research that shows that. I'm going to go off on a tangent, but there's this renowned study that was done on Russian Olympic athletes back in the 80s, and they had 4 different control groups. And the number one control group did 100% training, and then they started splitting it up. And the bottom only did 25% training and 75% mental imagery. And guess who performed the best?
The mental imagery.
The mental imagery one. And they did a lot less physical training, but they found that the visualization, there's something about the brain, and if you can see it, that becomes a reality. So you didn't even know what you were doing back then, but that's exactly what you did. And you were only 20 years old?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because I used to get up early just to be able to get in my morning routine for as getting up in the morning, watching the highlights, doing my push-ups, just reading my devotional and just getting after it.
Wow.
Because they say it's either 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 is like godly hours when most people aren't up during that time. So it's just more time to just take in all that spiritual energy.
Yeah. At what time do you get up?
Now 5.
I do too. Yeah. And back then, was it how old?
5:36.
5:36 in college.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people do that. Not in college.
Yeah, I had a goal, so I was up trying to get it.
Okay, so you stayed 4 years at Murray State, and then you get drafted. It was in the 6th round, right?
Yeah, 6th round to the Cardinals.
Okay. And how was that transition from college to pros for you?
It was tough, just because even though we had a pretty good playbook, it didn't compare to just the pro style playbook, and it was tough at first, just really trying to learn and just getting a routine of everything. But after a while, once I got adjusted, I started to slowly start playing like the old me. But then right after preseason, I had a good preseason with the Cardinals, and they were just going to sign me to the practice squad. But literally like 24 hours later, the Jets called me and was like, we're going to bring you up, have you starting kick return, punt return for us. So I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, and
So from
so it
Phoenix,
began.
yep, Phoenix to New York. So
Yeah, so you were with six different teams. I know the Bills twice, but you were with six different teams
what was it? Hold on, you got
across
the
4 seasons.
Cardinals, Jets, Bills, Raiders,
Raiders,
Jags. Yeah,
Jags.
5 teams. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And were you with the Bills twice, right?
Yeah. So it was even funny with that situation when um, the Jets released me my second year.
Mm-hmm.
Rex Ryan, he was up there with the Bills now, and he called me up there, and I was literally up there for 1 week. I was killing it at practice when I was on the practice squad. The Raiders called me and said they wanted to sign me to their team. So literally there for 1 week, all my stuff moved up there,
Oh
and
my
now I got to
gosh.
move all the way to Oakland. So I was like, oh man, this is crazy. But literally the Raiders used me for 4 weeks to get the Jets playbook. Then after they beat the Jets, they released me. Then Rex called me back, said we want to bring you back. End up playing with the Jets the rest of that season. Then I end up making the 53-man roster the following season. And yeah.
I think, when you're going through it, I'm sure it feels good to get those
Yeah.
opportunities. But because I have a lot of friends who played in the NFL or did play, and I think just professional sports, period, it's not just football, it can be very lonely,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're traveling all the time and you don't have a lot of stability and you're kind of jumping around all over the place. Did you battle that just kind of loneliness and be feeling isolated at times?
Not for real, just because I knew I had a lot of support, so I was able to call anybody when I needed to. But I mean, I liked it, just being able to be a nomad at times and really connect with a lot of people all across the country.
So you were okay with that. You were okay with living the life of a nomad.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Why is
I
that?
don't know. It was just a different chapter. It was new, just just being tossed around, but more so just like, oh, I'm in a different area. Let me take advantage of the time that I have
Yeah.
out here, because who knows, I may not be out here for long.
Hmm.
But I knew that just staying in New York, that this was where I wanted to be, just because all the connections I developed, all the relationships I developed, I knew I wanted to start my own foundation out here.
Mm-hmm. Um, I wrote some. I want to pull this out because this was in your article. And so there was a part in your Players Tribune piece where you were talking about while playing in the NFL, you felt like something was missing,
Mhm.
and some parts of it got old.
Yeah.
So when did you start feeling that?
I started feeling that once me and my co-founder came up with the idea of Politiscope. Like, I just felt like I was going through the motion, especially when my brother asked me, what was my purpose in life. During the time that I wasn't on the team, I was just doing a lot of reading, just a lot of stuff, just trying to figure out me. And he asked me what was my purpose in life, and I didn't know the answer. So that's when I really started to dive deeper into me and trying to figure out who I am and what was I brought on this earth to do. So once I got exposed back to, playing on a team again, it didn't feel the same. So that's when I
What
realized,
year and how old were you at this point?
what was I, 20, 27? It was about 25, 26.
Okay.
So it's like I was going through the motions. I'm at practice telling everybody about this app I already had the wireframe of it. So I used to show guys at lunch and in the meetings, like, you see this app? Like, just showing guys the app. But I just knew
And were they responsive?
they was like, yo, this is dope. Like, even though, because guys, I wasn't interested in politics, so I knew these guys would feel the same way about it, just the fact that it's simplified and easy now. So people was loving it, getting great responses, and I was just tapped out. Like, not tapped out of, not physically not tapped out, but just mentally, like, tapped out the game, just because I knew, like, I just knew where I wanted to be, and it wasn't with, playing football anymore. And I just seen the impact that Politiscope would have on just the world.
Do you think you just outgrew football, or did you get tired of the business of football?
Probably a little bit of both, just because everything just is so routine. I love, making it to Sundays, but in between, that time is such a process, just physically and mentally on you. But yeah, just the whole routine of everything, it got old kind of fast, especially especially when you get exposed to a new world, especially just getting exposed to tech, how I did. I'm just like, oh wow, this is like interesting. I love connecting with people, just talking about this idea that I'm passionate about, and just it was just a different lane. So I was all for it.
How did you feel? So you have this group that you've always been with since you're 4 or 5 years old, this football group, this athlete group. And then all of a sudden around 25, then you start noticing a shift in your passion. Did you feel lonely or uncomfortable with that? It's almost like did you feel like you had this secret in your head?
I felt a little disconnected from, I was still able to, be around the guys and still chop it up and just talk trash, but I just felt like they really couldn't relate to, just my next level of thinking that I just tapped into, just because they were just in this mode. And I understood that, like, they can't, just because they strictly football. And me, I'm, football and this too. So I feel like, probably if anybody could relate, it would have been like the veterans, but the guys that I was hanging around, like, they just couldn't relate.
Yeah, because at 23, 24, 25, most 25-year-old athlete that you're talking to, if they're physically capable of playing, they don't want to talk about anything else. They don't want to talk about because I don't know if I want to bring this, but I'm going to. So one of my exes, he played in the NFL as well. And when I was growing up as an athlete, my parents were all about get your education first. Tennis is not you can't go far with tennis. And even if you did, it's not very long lived. So that was in the back of my mind. And so with him, I was like, hey, you should start thinking about like a plan B. And it took, we would get into fights over it because he took it as if I didn't believe in his football abilities. I know you know what I'm talking about, but it's like, it's not like that. You need to, I don't care what you do. You could be Bill Gates, but you need a plan B. And he does. He has a plan B through Z. You know what I mean? And it's interesting to hear you say that, because I know the people that you're surrounded by at 25, and everyone's got that tunnel vision. So it's, do you remember a moment when you woke up, or the day, maybe it was that day that you were talking about, where you're like, this is it.
Yeah,
I can't be here.
Yeah, I remember just going through the motions and found myself in a meeting. And, I always used to sit in the front because I was just drawing up specs for the app. I was just totally tapped out. I was just relying on straight physical ability once we got out there and not tripping off that, just because we were in the playoffs. So literally, I just looked up one day and I was just like, I don't want to be here. And that's when I realized, football was my passion, but it wasn't my purpose in life. And I knew my purpose was to really wake people up with this tool that God blessed me with to, show the world, to, use my platform of playing in the NFL, being a millennial, being a minority, to create cultural change and really just do something that hasn't been done before, that needed to be done before, that needed to be done.
I love what you said in your piece about football was my passion, but Politiscope is your life purpose. And I think that really resonated with me, because talking about my tennis experience, there were moments, I feel like a lot of athletes experience it, where I didn't love tennis. Like I actually hated it. And looking back at it, when you said that, it made so much sense. And it's like, you can still love something, but it not be your life purpose. Like what I'm doing right now is my life purpose. That was a part of me, just a part of me. It was not all of me. But I think that's important for athletes to hear, because I think where they get into trouble is, I am a football player and that's it.
All is life. Just
right.
Any athlete. Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, it's only a chapter. Like, and people don't realize, like, you can still be involved with ball, whatever that type of ball is. You don't have to always have to play it. Like, it's like so many other things you can do. Let's say with football, you can be in media, you can be in just communications, you can still be around the game, even if after you physically can't play it. But a lot of guys just want to play until the wheels fall off and then not leverage just all those people they have to connect with. They don't leverage that and like just end up back at home and just in situations they don't want to be in and end up being depressed and just a lot of things. And I just, thank God that, he's introduced me to, my chapter, my next chapter while I was in the chapter. So that was just a blessing in itself, because I know like 95% of guys don't know what's after ball.
Right. Yeah. And that's really just kind of the purpose of why I create the show. And I'm learning so much from everybody that I talk to, friends and new friends and whatever. But that's the one question that I'm searching is, and I'm delving into research and all of that stuff. And I'm so fascinated with the idea of why are some athletes able to take what they learned in sports and apply it to other fields and realms in their life, while others, like, they could be the best at what they do and super high functioning, but then once sport is no longer in their life, they don't know how to transfer the work ethic or the time management or the discipline. Like, what made you different?
I just feel like I don't know. I've just always been different. I truly don't know. Just because my mom, she even said as a kid, I was just different. It was just something different about me. But it was just like just surrounding myself around a lot of people. One thing I did when I got in the league, my brother told me, since I'm in New York, network, because you never know. And he always just like, you never know when your time gonna be up. So that's one thing I did. I just networked because, once I was done with ball, like, I was able to just reach back into my Rolodex of connections and, see who I could connect with to just further whatever I was trying to do. So whether it was, even if it wasn't Politiscope, even if I wanted to get a job, like, have connections to, get a job. So it's, I feel like a lot of guys just need to, when they're at this high level, they need to network. Like, that's the biggest thing, because a lot of guys
You're definitely not the only athlete that said that. And one of them, I think it was Gerald Henderson, who played in the NBA, and he was like, I wish I would have networked better and not just had blinders on. And he's doing that now, but there's a lot of athletes that kind of agree with you.
Yeah, and I was just really, I'm kind of like a social chameleon, just because I can just adapt in whatever setting. So I just had friends in entertainment world and tech world and this world, like politics realm. So it was just like all over the place. So I've just had all types of people willing to help me, So it was just, as long as you real with yourself, everybody, and people will feel that realness, so they'll be willing to help you. So just the main thing is just network your ass off.
Yeah.
Like, for real.
Well, I feel like you're real with yourself now, but I feel like in 2017, maybe that probably wasn't the case. And I took out a little excerpt from your piece, but so when did things start in 2017? Because I know there were a lot of things, and I know you also were suspended for 4 games, right, for violating the league's performance enhancing policy. So it sounds like there were just a lot of things going on that year.
Yeah, I was coming off an injury, high ankle sprain, had it was like a fractured bone in my leg as well. So, I tried to do, something out of the norm, which I didn't think was bad, but it ended up being illegal. So it was just like, it was a knock to me, but I thought it wasn't gonna, affect my whole career, which it didn't, after a while, after that stuff blew over. Cause I mean, there's so many guys that get popped for so many different PEDs, and it's like, I mean, it's just crazy now, but.
You don't have to talk about, but can I ask what it was, or for your ankle, or?
It was just a doctor recommended. I'm not gonna dive into it, but it's just like, I wish I hadn't, but it is what it is, because I feel like now everything, everything happens for a reason. So it was already written before I was even born that this was gonna happen. So it's all good.
You know what? It's a part of the game. It's not just part of football. I've definitely, it's one of those weird things that everybody knows is going on, but no one really talks about it in the public sphere because there's a lot of scrutiny and all that stuff. But it's like, when your livelihood, I'm not necessarily condoning it, but I've seen it and I understand why people do it. And in fact, when I made my tennis comeback a couple of years ago, I decided after I left ESPN, I wanted to go back and play professional tennis, because I realized I was unhappy with how my career ended, so I wanted closure. And there was a part of me that was like, you know what? If I had the opportunity, I almost would like to try PEDs, because I would want to see how well my body would function. And I feel like I wouldn't, because I ended up tearing my shoulder. So I was like, maybe I would have avoided my 4th surgery or whatever. So anyways, So you go through all of that, and then what's the rest of the season looking like?
Just a whole bunch of just training, just waiting to get calls, waiting to get workouts, because the PED situation was still pretty fresh. So guys were trying to stay away from me at the time. But then it was just a lot of training, just waiting. So in between that time was about a month and a half, and that was like the longest I've ever not been on a team. The longest I've ever not been on a team before that was like, I don't know, like 2 days. So it was just like, it was a lot, just a lot on me mentally.
Wait, guys were staying away from you?
Yeah, teams were like, it was just like, it wasn't the right time. It was like maybe towards the end of the season, or, when they needed more receivers. So at that time, everybody was good with receivers. So it was just like, sheesh, just waiting. So that's, when Politiscope came, that's when I really started reading and really starting it was just a lot of stuff happening. My girl, she realized like, yo, he might not be worth shit. So it's like, let me step out of here. So, which was cool. And just at that time, I just really wasn't in the right headspace anyway to even handle a relationship. And just even with just the whole person I trusted, taking the money from me and just really putting me in a hole financially on the real estate side really just threw me off. So it was like a trifecta. But it was,
I think it was more than a trifecta. It sounds like it was like 5 things.
Yeah, it really was. It was like 5 things. It was the most stuff I had to take all at once. It was like a hard pill to swallow. But after I, got through that, and everything started just going uphill.
Every person that I've talked to, we always dive into one critical point, and I always tell everybody, I was like, when people are hearing other successful people's inspiring stories, we kind of gloss over the difficult periods because it's like, oh, I got laid off. I got laid off from ESPN, but then 2.5 years later, I'm like bouncing back, and I'm, I've got my own show, whatever. But I, at least with my platform, I've wanted to be open about what happened to my journey, so people can understand that success must come with failure, or really, 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 not just like pitfalls, but really deep, dark moments. So I'm not picking on you when I'm talking about this moment. But so you get injured, you get suspended, and then the Bills cut you. And then your girlfriend breaks up with you over the phone. Bad move by her. Over the phone. Yeah. That's not nice. Do you remember a moment that really stands out where you were like, I don't know if I can get out of this?
Yeah, it was the point, I found myself at Home Depot just because I was going to, the stores every morning to get more just equipment, to whether it was paint, whether it's buying some caulk, do the drywall and all that crazy stuff. That was the morning my girl called me. I was still just in that moment of just being hurt, just from having to do all this stuff and not being on the team, and then she breaking up with me. It was just, I felt so defeated, and I felt like just like, dang, like I don't know what to do. But I started, I've always had a spiritual relationship with God, so God told me, you got to forgive, because if I didn't forgive, it was gonna be the end of me. I could have went, instead of going right, I end up going left, and who knows, end up getting somebody pregnant, end up, committing a crime, doing some stuff that's not me, and I had to just wholeheartedly forgive. I had to forgive, my girl. I had to forgive the person who stole from me. I had to forgive myself so that I can grow from it and understand that, it's a way out of this situation. Like, it was, I had a rise, and this was a major fall, but I feel like this was like the rebirth of me that really opened up me in a different way that I can really just move in a better way, just being the best version of Walt, because that version of Walt I was just vibrating at a low level, and there was just a lot of stuff just happening to me. But just ever since I decided to forgive wholeheartedly and just really just reinvent myself in a way, just step into the new me, it's been a blessing.
when, even though you were kind of already maybe realizing what your relationship with football was, which is a passion, but no longer really a part of your future, or you saw bigger and better things for you, it was, I would imagine it was still hard to walk away from it.
Oh yeah, it was definitely hard. It was like right after, once we came up with the idea of Politiscope, and the season was finally over, and I'm just fully focused on Politiscope, still working out for football, just because at that time the Jags didn't want to sign me back, which was cool. My receiver coach, who was my receiver coach for the Bills and the Jets, he called me because he was the receiver coach for the Cowboys at the time, well now, and he wanted me to come down there and play for him because, he was going to take care of me. But he was just like, come on down, and we're gonna go from there. And I was just like, oh man. And this was when we already raised $500,000 for the company.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, give me 24 hours to think about it, pray on it. So I prayed on it, and I just realized, like, I just knew with football it's gonna be the next 2 or 3 more years if I was still playing, a lot of bouncing around, and that was just something mentally and emotionally I didn't want to do anymore. And I just seen the longevity of Politiscope and how much of an impact it can make instead of me just playing ball and just quote unquote riding off into the sunset and disappearing and all that crazy stuff. But I just seen the longevity with Politiscope. So I called my coach back next day. Well, I texted him and told him, I appreciate it, but I'm good. And just because I told him about
What was his response? Was he?
He was shocked just because that's been my guy since I was still a kid, coming into the league. So he was shocked about it, but he understood it. So he was just like, man, I'm proud of you. And you already know you can call me whenever. So it was just crazy because right after, I said no to that situation, guy was like, you sure? You sure you done? And then 6 more teams called me trying to sign me. So it was just crazy.
So they kept calling. It was like Dallas, then another team, then another team, then another team.
Yeah.
And then 3 more teams.
And then I was just like, I'm good. That's how I knew, I was being tested once again. But it was just like, it looked good, but for the long haul, this not what I need to, this not what I'm supposed to be doing now.
I had the stupidest analogy in my head.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like when you're at the clubs
Mm-hmm.
and the lights are low and you see this person, you're like, they look good. But it's like
Right.
bait.
Straight bait.
Yeah. And then the lights turn on and you're like, that's not what and then the truth reveals itself. You're like, that's not for me.
Right. I'm straight. Never mind.
And then you said that it seemed like some people turned their backs to you.
Yeah, just during that time of just that downfall of me, like I'm just a friend. Like even when I decided to give up on ball, friends that I was close with, grew up with, playing ball with, playing on the same team with, turned on me just because they didn't want to, either help me out or just be there for me through this transition, which was cool. But it was just definitely people was looking at me crazy. My family, like they was like, "What are you doing?" Just like, why are you retiring from football? And just yeah.
So they were just kind of, and this is a huge issue, I think in youth sports. But then as a lot of these athletes go on, is that the influence of the support system. Just studies and research has shown that a huge reason why a lot of these athletes will continue to play until the wheels fall off has to do with their family and everybody and the mentors. And you are not the only NFL player that I've talked to that has said that even when this person, another player, they went through an injury and it was clearly going to be career ending, that people still turn their backs on that person. And it seems to be just, I don't know if this happens to everybody. I don't know, but it seems to happen to a lot of athletes.
Yeah, definitely. I'm positive it happens to a lot of people because you hear it all the time in different scenarios, but it's all the same.
I just don't understand. Is it because they're mad? Maybe they're.
Like,
I'm just trying to make sense of it. Maybe are they trying to?
And it's hard to explain just because it's like, oh, you out of the fraternity, especially if it's a player. Like, oh, we not as close now just because you can't really relate because you're not in the trenches with me anymore.
But what about the people that aren't even playing today? So then it's like, you're not in the trenches.
Yeah, they trying to live vicariously through you, and now they can't now because now you basically like them. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's I mean, it's tough because you already know just in America, you know, football is,
I know.
It's like, that is, football, it was basketball, football. I don't even know the baseball world, but yeah, it's like basketball and football, like once you're done, it's just different, man. The energy change up, and it's like a lot of guys can contest to that.
I don't know. It's just, it's infuriating to me because it's like, okay, so you have some of these people around you, not just you specifically, just that general term. And it's like, you have friends who aren't playing sports. You're not an athlete. And then you're going to get pissed at your friend because they're not playing anymore. Like, what gives you the right to be pissed at them for making a life decision? Like, if somebody makes a career change, you don't go over to them and say, hey, why are you leaving the tech business? Or why did you drop out of medical school? You know, or whatever else.
The real ones, I mean, the real ones gonna be there. The ones that's not real, that's just what's supposed to happen. Shoot, basically you just weeding out the, I ain't gonna say snakes, but just like, you just weeding out you cutting off the fat. Shoot, whoever's gonna be there for you at your lowest and, you know, not dip on you, then those are the ones who should be there for you when you're back on top.
I took out an excerpt, which was probably one of my favorite parts. They're your words, so I don't know if you would prefer to read them, or do you want me to read it?
See. I mean, I can read it if you want, but if you want to read, what you want?
What do you want?
What do you want? This your show. I'll read it for you just because you got it pointed towards me. I was in such a dark place, just so, I don't know how to put it, really. Just basically low. It was like everything was snowballing on me, or like I was suffocating and couldn't come up for air. I was at the lowest point ever in my life. No team, no girl, no money, heartbroken from 3 different angles. So I sat in that parking lot devastated, defeated, not knowing if I could ever bear the thought of moving on. Then I heard this voice in my head say, loud and clear, you must forgive. Forgive wholeheartedly, and you must do it now, or it may be the end of you. I heard God loud and clear, and even though I was hurting and on the brink of destruction, I knew what I had to do. I said right then and there out loud with my eyes full of tears, Lord, I forgive my ex for breaking up with me. Lord, I forgive the person who stole from me. And most of all, Lord, I forgive myself. Fill my heart with forgiveness, love, and compassion and understanding, because I'm not perfect, but I forgive.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, when you read it out loud, what do you remember of that? What do you?
I mean, I still remember it like it was yesterday, just because it was just so, like I said, that was a turning point, because I feel like a lot of people it's hard for people to forgive in this day and age. And it's just like, just being able to forgive. If you don't forgive, you just hurting yourself at the end of the day. Like, just because you still holding on to that situation that happened, and it's just constantly just going to affect you and how you move in life or future relationships with people. So it's like being able to just forgive wholeheartedly and put it behind me. I was able to grow and really just step, to another level. Because it's like, to forgive people, it takes a little more than the usual. Like, because it's like, man. Like,
yeah, it's harder than anything else.
Dead ass. Like, it's like, like, it's hard to explain, but it's just like, man, just forgiving. It's like, it's different, but like different in a good way. Because everybody quick to have these negative, just, forget that person. Never remember what they did to you. But it's like, no, it's okay. I understand. Who knows what they went through, like I said before, and I forgive you, because I'm not finna let you hold me back from what God has for me in my future. Because it's like, who am I to not forgive if God forgives me every day for what I think, what I do, any action? So who am I to not forgive? So.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for reading that. My dad always said, and he didn't say this to me until I was in my 20s. I could have heard it a lot sooner, probably wouldn't have registered, but he said, Prim, when you're angry, the only person that suffers is you. Mm-hmm. And that always just stuck in my head, because I do think that we live in a culture where we like to get revenge, especially in today's, as you know, political landscape, where everybody has an opinion and gets really upset when people don't agree with their opinion. And then we hold on to this. And it's just this, it's led to this toxic culture. But you were able to forgive. Was it just the voice? Where else did that come from? Where did you read it from? Where did that knowledge about forgiveness come from?
It was there. Like I said, I have a pretty strong relationship with God. So he just always, I just listened. Once I got to the point where I was having a lot of alone time, like I was just able to listen. And most of the time it was him telling me, or my higher self telling me what to do, and I just heard it loud and clear. And I knew it wasn't coming from me saying you must forgive. It was like, it was just coming from God, and just really, I knew it was real because I just had the chills go down my back, and it was just like, I just felt the presence of God in that car, just because it definitely could have went just a total, just different direction. And who knows where I would have been if I didn't forgive. So
you're sitting in that car and you feel that, and then what happens next?
I mean, it's just a weight was lifted off of me. Like the pain was still there, but it wasn't as deep as it was. It was just like it was, at first it was like a knife, just straight through me, but it was just now just like a freaking safety pin now. The point is still there, but it wasn't as deep as.
So how did you cope with that pain, even if because it doesn't happen overnight? Yeah. So how do you deal, for somebody who's dealing with that kind of pain and they're trying to figure their way out of this hole, how did you deal with that?
I mean, just constant prayer, constant meditation, because meditating just put me at peace with everything and just put me in a different state of mind. And just with meditating, you can't be judging people and just, I can't, and meditating. It's like, it doesn't make sense. It's like an oxymoron in a sense. So it was just really meditating and really just venting about it, just talking about it and just releasing it and just doing that. That was the main, prayer and meditation was the main thing that just really got me over that. And of course, reading and just really understanding emotions, understanding the mind, understanding just forgiveness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, meditation I could see is a huge component of that for people who don't meditate. I think there's a lot of people doing it. The whole mindfulness and yoga trend is on the up and up. And I know there's a lot of people that kind of think it's a little, I don't know what the word is, phony or hippie or whatever, but it really works. I don't know a lot of elite or successful just people in general that don't meditate, because I think for those that are listening, just to give you a backdrop of what it does, it basically trains the brain to stay in the present moment. And also you become trained to separate yourself from your thoughts. And that's the biggest thing, is like, you aren't your thoughts. And that was a confusing thing for me, because I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not my thoughts. But the brain is it's a tool, and it likes to fix itself on problems and ideas. And that's what you're talking about. Like, if you're mad at somebody, it likes to grind and think about it. Like, what can I do? Okay, so that happens. And then what happens with Politiscope? So what's the turning point?
So with Politiscope, well, first off, to just talk about what Politiscope is. I created a player profile app for politicians that breaks down and explains every bill a politician votes for or against in the layman's terms. So really just making it that one-stop shop for all politics, whether it's calling your politician off the app, following them on all social media, registering to vote, literally everything you need about politics in a matter of 4 to 5 clicks, being informed, seeing statistics on each bill, literally it's just everything that you need.
It's like fantasy football, but but like a beginner's fantasy football, but for politics.
Exactly. And even politicians, they love it just because they don't have to do all this research, because they got it from the bill breakdown, from easy, medium to hard. So the deeper you go down, the more in depth it gets, but it's still pretty just broken down simply. And it's super dope. But with everything with Politiscope, just started to when we created the idea of Politiscope, we like I said, the vision came straight from God, just my best friend, being a political junkie. I hated politics at the time. And he just always broke down politics to me into a way that I can understand. So,
And you guys were still in the league when this was going on, when you came up with the idea?
I wasn't on a team at that time.
Okay.
But it was late December 2017.
So it was after you got cut. So it was that same season, okay, that you came up with. Okay.
Yeah, so everything that happened with me just being at that low time, the Politiscope idea happened probably was born like 2 weeks prior.
Huh.
So it was, 2 weeks, not 2 weeks before. Yeah. So 2 weeks before everything was happening. But it was...
That's fascinating because as one part of you is closing or dying, the other one had already just been born.
Exactly. So it was just like, when I had this idea, it was like a That's So Raven moment because I just seen it when we were talking about it. I'm like, yo, what if we created an app that broke down politics the way you break it down to me? So we got online, started looking for apps and websites that were similar to what I was thinking about creating, couldn't find anything. So told Jay, I'll be right back, ran to CVS, grabbed some pen and paper, came home, drew it out how I seen it in my vision, had Jay put his political input into each page, and then 20-some pages later, it was Politiscope. And then 3 months after that, once the season was up, we ended up finishing our prototype. And then 3 months after that, we ended up raising $500,000. And then after that, we just...
I love how you simplify it because it is not that easy to create an app. Because my husband Ben is kind of in the tech space and venture capitalist space, and he's done some stuff in that, and it is not easy because you have to figure out the algorithm, you have to figure out the graphics, you have to go through like the beta period, you have to get investors, and it's like constant pitching and pitching and pitching. And it's not even just like pitching. You have to like call 17 people just to get in front of like the guy that you want to talk to.
Yeah, and it was just like, it was a blessing just being able to tap into all my connections and people just seeing me having a great idea and having something already laid out, so fast. Like I was getting in rooms that I never thought I'd be in, for as powerful rooms, and even being in a room with Derek Jeter, having lunch with Derek Jeter one-on-one, having just being in rooms with top artists and top just entertainers and politicians, and I'm just like, yo, this is crazy, because I've never been in a room like this before playing in the NFL. Yeah. So it's just like being exposed to this stuff because I had a great idea, and now it is here, and just the traction we didn't had so far. We over 12,000 users after launching this past year, January 19th. All organic users.
12,001.
Yep. Appreciate you.
No,
Hey.
No, I haven't. It is actually extremely useful. And I am embarrassed to say, because I know today's political landscape, it's extremely important to get involved in everything. But for me, I think the hardest thing, I love in-depth one-on-one conversations because the information is easy to filter and you're getting it from the horse's mouth, right? I think the thing that is really annoying about politics is that everything is it's like a pitch. And people will say that I believe in this, but then you see them doing something else. So it gets really confusing. And for me, it's hard to decipher and sift through all the noise. Yeah. So I have your app up on my phone right now, but you've got like Today in Congress. So this is basically like a rundown of this is just kind of like the
bills that just got introduced or working their way through the House to get passed. But even on our 2.0 version that's launching in a couple of weeks, we're adding the elections tab, so you can see who's leading, how much money they done raised, who big companies they done raised from, and you can actually donate to every politician on the app on the new version. So that's going to be a game changer, as well as you can support and oppose politicians as well. So you can share your support and oppose list on Twitter or Instagram. So let's say, Taylor Swift, she tweeted about this politician and she wanted to get him out his seat. And literally, she ended up getting him out his seat because everybody ended up voting against him. And that's the power of just Twitter and social media. So imagine Taylor Swift sharing her whole support and oppose list. Oh. Everybody going, like, I trust Taylor, so I'm going to vote for these people as well. Wow. And just the power of that, in itself.
And the power of Taylor Swift.
Exactly, and the power of Taylor Swift. So that was just being able to have that type of information at the power in a matter of clicks is, I mean, it's powerful. And
you have a lot of information. I don't even know how you were able to, because I've seen some apps and like the development of it, and it is a process. So but you have a lot of information on it. You've got the bills on one page. The next topic is hot topics. You've got business, civil rights, drug policy, economy, education, environment, food, water, foreign policy, guns, healthcare, immigration, law enforcement. I mean, and then on your next, you've got daily scope.
That's like the media.
And then you've got Meet Congress, which is really cool. So you've got a list. It's basically like player profiles, and you can go to any one of the representatives there, and you can just read up on them and follow them
and see everything they're doing. And this is just just think of how Facebook was way back in the day when it was just Facebook and you had to get invited to it, and how basic it was. That's kind of how we are right now, but we on steroids compared to how they were, just visually and just where we at. So just think about.
It's not just like anecdotal people posting stuff.
Exactly.
This is like real information.
Exactly. So it's like this, the updates we have in stores, it's really going to separate ourselves from anybody who are competitors. I'm excited just where we're headed with this. And like I said, just using my platform, and just in this day and age, there isn't no better time than now to have a tool like this, especially with the political climate and just how biased it is. And just, it's so tribalistic, because everybody is like, oh, I'm over here, and I don't care what, you know what I'm saying? And why don't we just come together with the facts and not play this whole high school, click thing, you feel me? So it's coming together with straight facts. And if you are, feeling some type of way about the facts, then it lets us know, all right, you a little corrupt, or you're a little iffy. So, I mean, just bringing the straight facts. So it's either you with it or you not, but either way, you own it.
Yeah, I mean, this is extremely useful. Are we good with the battery and all that stuff? Okay. When I was on this thing, I was really fascinated. The content. So how for a lot of these, for a lot of the people out there, athletes or non-athletes, and they have an idea, but the war of attrition, or whatever you want to call it, from just having everybody has an idea, but to take an idea and put it into motion, what's the difference? How were you guys able to put this idea into motion?
I feel like everybody has great ideas. It's just a matter of just execution. How are you willing to are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to do what needs to be done to make it to the next step, to bringing your baby to life, whatever that idea is? And I mean, if you are, it's going to come to life. But if not, it's forever going to be in the cloud, or forever going to be at step one. So
can you give an example? What's something that you would do?
Far as
anything, work ethic, getting up. What do you cold call people?
I mean, all that. When I first started, asking, looking for investors, it was cold calling, just networking. That's definitely networking, and trying to piece together, all right, what room should I be in? What event should I go to really maximize just my opportunity to get investments? And just really...
But how do you, but even then, how do you network? Because if you're out of the NFL now, it's not like you're I'm going to go to Bill's charity event. So how do you figure out what events to go to? I mean,
still could if I wanted to, but it's just more so, like I said, I've been blessed to really just connect with a lot of people on the East Coast, and, people just rock with me because I'm me, and it's just being genuine, being real, and, just being a good person. So they just, hey, come with me to this event, or come with me to this event. And just really just me just following my intuition. It's times where, and this is just long story short, just listening to your higher self. It was about a year ago, my boy was security guard for Drake, and they had a concert at Barclays, and he invited me, and I was just like, I'm good, because I just finished working out, and something told me, why don't you go? You never know who you're gonna meet. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go. So I ended up going, he ended up giving me tickets to the VIP area. So the first person I've seen was somebody that I knew from up at Buffalo, but they're in Toronto. And he was like, hey, how you doing? It's been a while. I told him what I was doing with football. What I was doing with the app. And he was like, come up to come up to Toronto next weekend. It's TIFF, was a film festival. So I was like, I don't know. And then my higher self was like, you never know who you're gonna meet. So I was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna go now just because I already got here and met this person again, so might as well go. So next thing you know, a long story short, end up meeting one of my advisors that end up helping us really making the back end of Politiscope airtight, connecting with all types of people all over the place, end up meeting somebody who end up connecting me with me getting connected with the guys at Players Tribune and now the story. So it's like all that networking, like over this past year and a half, I probably done networked with over 600 people. Like just because I know it's another opportunity to get in front of somebody, you know.
And a lot of it is also just being really open about your concept. And the moment we started talking about Politiscope, like your eyes lit up.
Yeah.
And you just got a big, it's like an 8-year-old Walter just smiling. You get so,
big fact. That's my
so
baby.
excited about it. And you can tell. And I think that passion is extremely infectious. It really is. It's almost, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but when you are passionate about something, that alone that's the thing that's going to carry your baby, the concept.
And that's one thing I feel like I'm not going to say I'm the best salesman, but when it's something I'm passionate about and I believe in, like I'm going to sell the hell out of it. And shoot, you're going to like it. So it's like with Politiscope, I can't do nothing but sell it just because it's just dope. And I feel like this is something everybody needs. Like, not one person say I can use this, but no, you can.
I actually, and it's not even just like like some people like, I actually really need this because there's a lot of information to sift through. What I found interesting in your piece about the Players Tribune, also you mentioned that football has prepared you for the tech space, which is, you know, we're kind of exaggerating, but it's 99% white, you know. It's predominantly white males.
No, you're not exaggerating. It is. It's
is it?
99% white, and the other 1% is women and minorities.
I didn't realize that was an actual stat. I thought it was just hyperbolic.
It's ridiculous.
Wow.
Like, so
that's actually kind of sad that it's not.
I mean, it is super sad just because it's like it lets you know like just where just society is headed. Just like they really trying to, and I ain't gonna say they, but it's just like just really trying to just get pushed out of that realm, because that's where everything is. Tech. That's where a lot of the money is in tech and real estate. That's where a lot of the money is. So it's like, I mean, you just see. I mean, it's right there in the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, that's really unfortunate. I mean, that's actually kind of scary, especially if that's an implication for the future. But you said that football has prepared you for the tech space. And I'm so curious, how is that? Because when you're pitching, you're in front of venture capitalists and all of them are older white males. So how did football prepare you for that?
I feel like football prepared me just because it's just, football has put me in a lot of uncomfortable positions, dealing with a lot of adversity, just from a mental and physical standpoint. But just football has prepared me, just giving me confidence, even though I don't know fully what I'm doing, but I know I'm just doing it, just going, and we just gonna roll with it from there, and just being able to just react, just being able to put together a team and just build. I'm big on just team camaraderie. So being able to just feel and see who's the best pieces to complete this puzzle. So I feel like that's definitely contributes to playing football or playing any sport, because you just want to pick the best people. And on top of that, I just know that I'm not no tech guy to the T, so I'm gonna bring somebody in who's a tech guy. I'm not no developer, so I'm gonna bring somebody in who's a developer. I'm not expert fundraiser, so I'm gonna bring in all the pieces where I'm lacking, so that we can be each other's, crutches. Where one person has a weakness, another person has a strength, and it goes around the table, around a circle, and we constantly holding each other up. So that's what that's what a team is. Shoot, when you think about every position. So yeah,
that's awesome. Do you have any lasting advice for a lot of the athletes who might have been in a similar situation as you? And, I know in your piece, you just kind of mentioned, I hope that I can help unlock the potential and help people find their life purpose. What kind of any last minute advice do you have for people out there who are kind of going through that transition, something that you've learned about yourself over the last couple of years?
Definitely say, just try to definitely read and read meaningful books to really just try to figure out who you are, to tap into yourself. Definitely, if you're a spiritual person, definitely talk to God, because he's going to reveal everything to you that you need to know. All you got to do is ask. Just definitely just try to just figure out who you are by just doing the stuff that you don't do. I mean, just not that you don't do, but just definitely read, definitely meditate, definitely pray. Because once you start doing that, you just start, you're listening, like your ears open up even more, and you become you start to get a stronger intuition about things and a stronger gut feeling. So just, yeah, definitely read. That's the main thing. Because I feel like a lot of people don't read. And it's like, just open up a book, because there's so much gold in
I love
books.
it. Yeah. I was actually reading the Bill Gates documentary. Did you see that? Inside Bill's Mind. Apparently he reads 140 pages in an hour. So when he goes on a work trip, he'll read up to anywhere from like 10 to 14 books.
That's crazy.
And apparently his retention is like 90%. So there's no reason, obviously there's a reason why he's so successful. My retention rate is like 2%. Like I read a lot, but my retention rate is.
That's why proof is in the pudding. Even if you suck at reading, one thing that really helped me retain a lot of information is I read, then I listened to the audio, and then it just hit more senses. So I was seeing it, I was hearing it, and I was able to visualize it. So definitely, try that, with reading. It helps you get through books faster too. Because sometimes I'm a slow reader, so sometimes I'll be reading and then I'll just fall asleep on accident. But
must be not that interesting whatever you're reading.
No, it's interesting. It's just I'm a grandpa at heart, so I'm done. But definitely try the audio while you're reading. So it's like somebody reading you a story, but you just following along and visualizing it and just going with it. That's what helped me.
I love it. All right, Grandpa at heart. Walter, thank you so much for coming on the show and opening up and everything. I really appreciate your story. Is inspiring, and we're going to be following Politiscope. Where can people find you?
You can find me and Politiscope on Instagram. On Twitter, you can find me on Instagram, SpeedKills9. Gonna change that pretty soon. But you can follow Politiscope at Politiscope app on Twitter. Definitely download Politiscope. It's in the App Store and in the you can download in App Store and Google Play.
And 2.0 is coming out soon.
2.0 coming out in a couple of weeks. Excited about that.
So do I need to download the 2.0?
No, it's gonna automatically.
Update?
So then you just gonna be like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But I'm excited. I'm excited for it because it's a game changer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Over the course of this season, in the next chapter, I've pointed out multiple times how sport can sometimes interfere with an athlete's ability to transition from the game. And I really don't mean to frame sports as a negative experience. My only aim is to just cast a spotlight on all sides of the athletic experience, the positives, the negatives, and of course, everything else in between. Now, in this case, Walter's story is a fantastic example of how sport can prepare you in a great way for the inevitable pivot into your next chapter. In his case, football really prepared him for the entrepreneurial path and the startup world because football has put him in so many uncomfortable positions. And as a result, he's become so comfortable with being uncomfortable. And even when he's not really sure where he's headed and is confronted with this imposter syndrome, football has taught him to have faith in his physical and mental abilities and to have confidence that he can handle just about anything that comes his way. I think a lot of people believe confidence is just this mindset and attitude that can happen like that. But it's not an overnight endeavor. You have to build confidence. You have to build the confidence muscle, so to speak. And it's acquired through experience, it's acquired through repetition, through hours and hours of practice, through mistake after mistake after mistake, and failure after failure. And the reason why failure is so important to the building of confidence is because going through that type of adversity enables you to learn more about your craft, to develop that resiliency and thick skin that's required to achieve a certain level of success, and to build this inner belief that no matter what happens to you, no matter what occurs throughout this process, nobody wants this more than you do, and nobody has been through the things that you have been through to achieve this goal. And that confidence that Walter speaks of is not something that happens overnight. It is a long process that takes days, months, and oftentimes years. And sport can help accelerate that process. So, to everyone listening to this episode, especially to all my young listeners, the ones who often ask the question, how do I become confident? I really hope Walter's story and this explanation helps just a little bit. As always, feel free to send me your thoughts and questions and comments. You can hit me up at Prim_Siripipat on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. The Next Chapter with Prim Siripipat is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.